how well you represent your brand.
Then just saying I'm a comp prep athlete is not sufficient. And that's where I tend to finally lose.
What's up, guys? I'm here with Ben Mayfield-Smith. Ben traveled all the way from Australia to be here at the Mastermind. And again, one of the smartest people I know. He does things very differently. And I think it's worth highlighting because every single one of us has a different approach, but we all get great results. As I share some of my journey, you'll see a lot of those same philosophies echoed amongst these high performers, but it's important that you hear it from them and not from me. So Ben, who are you? Who do you coach?
Well, yeah, like you said, I primarily focus on comp prep, physique development, but I think one of the unique approaches that we've really started to lean into for our clientele is we treat them as performance clients first, whereas I think the industry gets caught up in idealizing and fixating on the physique. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things that I think really separates us is that I view bodybuilding as a vehicle of high performance. I would consider myself a high performance coach. It's just that bodybuilding is the way I deliver that. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of the clients I work with, and we were just having this conversation with one of the other members previously, I end up leading them down a different life once they start with me, not out of demand, but through leadership, action, and I think demonstration of value, mm-hmm. that they tend to want to follow a similar sort of path. That doesn't mean that they get on stage, but generally they'll lead towards, auditing their friendship circles, assessing their life. Where are they being? Where are they not as efficient as they want to be? Where they're not as productive as they want to be? Where are they wasting time? Where they're wasting money? How can they be more accountable and coachable? How can they leverage me to get the most out of what they're paying for, but also out of life? And so that for me is where I think we really start to separate ourselves, is rather than looking at it as we're just physique coaches and we just do comp preps. I'm a high performance coach. It's just that the field of performance that I most operate in is in bodybuilding hypertrophy.
Yeah, I mean, that echoes perfectly with Master Athletic Performance. Like, training and nutrition are a vehicle for personal development. And that is our number one priority, is how do we create better people? On your end as a business owner, you own Matter Athletica and you're building that brand. You are going to school, pursuing your master's degree. You are also coaching a full roster of clients. What are some of the strategies that you could give the listeners, watchers, that will actually help them manage their time better?
So one of the things that I think is probably the most effective strategy that we have is we have communication, we have conversations around seasons. I think you and I have spoken about this before previously, but one of the things that we like to do is establish what a season looks like. So because of the way the comp prep seasons work in Australia, the way the university semester structure works in Australia, we will have different times of the year where there's different priorities and focuses. Rather than being like, I need to balance all these things, as we've spoken about before, I don't try and balance everything all at once. It just can't be done. However, when it's time to lock in for my clients, that season is comp prep mode. When it's time to lock in on university and I've got an exam block, I still deliver to a high tier, but that 2 to 4 week period, that is exam time. That's uni time. That's the season we're in. And it ebbs and flows based on the number of clients we have competing, based on how many subjects I'm doing, whether I'm in comp prep myself, like that. This exact process will come into play by the time we get back to Australia, because I am going into prep in about October. It's end of August now. We're already in a pre-prep phase, so I have to be on here, which is why you'll see on my Instagram, we've got fruits, vegetables, protein, fiber, making sure I get my water targets. Like, I don't drop off just because of traveling. Mm-hmm. There'll be some allowances and leniency, but I already know that we set such a high standard that even my step back is better than what most people will be 99% of the time.
Yeah, I just went over in the earlier part of this video, I did like a meal prep. Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons why I chose to drive instead of fly was so I could bring my meals, right? That post-prep period is so important when it comes to metabolic adaptations. And I wanted to make sure that I returned to health as quickly as possible. So yeah, I had to make some concessions in other areas so that I could prioritize this one thing that's very important to me right now. And actually, I didn't even mention the fact that you were an athlete. So on top of that, you are trying to compete at the highest level yourself. To me, that speaks to being a product of your product. Yes. And I think that is one of the most important factors in the success of your business, is how well you represent your Absolutely. Brand. And even your education is focused on psychology. Mm-hmm. So if you're framing your entire business on the psychological aspect of high performance, you're walking the walk in every stage of your life, which I think is incredibly important. What's next for Matter Athletica? What are you most excited about?
I think the next big thing for us is going to be leveraging the education side. So rather than being a vault on the psychological stuff that I'm learning, on the things that we're developing, the frameworks and IPs, a lot of it is going to be put into a structured way where people can leverage it and they can use it. Mm-hmm. We're building out a massive education platform called Psychological Preparation for Physique Competition.
Oh, wow.
So it's something that, you go through all these other courses and education. There's nothing wrong with them by any means. I've done a lot of them, but there's always a component that they miss. And especially when it comes to comp prep at such a high level. And I mean, like, there's the person who does it for the experience and they want to try it out one day and that's cool. Mm-hmm. But to be a high tier, bordering on pro athlete, there's a certain psychological component that goes with it. And there's a lot of that that's missed in the way we coach people. We get into this space where it's like X's and O's, sets and reps, protein, carbs, and fats. But what goes on up top often overrides most of that. And for the average person, if you don't have the psychological skills, the psychological tools, you don't have the grounding, you don't have the why, if you don't have your purpose, then just saying I'm a comp prep athlete is not sufficient. And that's where I tend to find we lose. We lose, we give into the hunger, the cravings, the noise, the head noise, the fatigue. Like at some point, it has to be grounded in more than I want to be lean on a stage for a photo. Otherwise, that's where the eating issues kick in. That's where the binging kicks in. It's where the emotional coping mechanisms kick in. All of these things can be traced back to that person not have a deeper reason to why they're doing it. And that for us is a big platform that they're laying down is, I'm not going to be known as the biomechanics expert. I run a very simplistic approach to coaching, programming, periodization. But for me, getting more out of the individual per season and watching them grow is probably more of my focus, with the intention of they have the best delivered product they can possibly put on stage, and know that if they were to give up competing tomorrow, they left nothing on the table. That there is nothing left. That there is, one of our an example of this tangent. One of our most senior clients just retired from bodybuilding, 57 years old, went out with an overall title, natural, won several of his masters divisions. Did several different federations in Australia. One of the things that we had him do was construct his success criteria at the start of the season. What does success look like to you in a sport, look like to you in a sport that can't guarantee a placing? And he was able to walk away and know that we ticked every single one of those boxes, and there is no longer a what if for him when he retires. And I can't be more fulfilled by that as a coach. Like, I was nearly in tears when he came off and he said how he felt about it. I was like, this is one of the most fulfilling moments of my life as a coach. And that just came from him, a lot of things that it came from, but part of that was knowing that he'd established a criteria that he could define as successful beyond whether or not he got a medal. To me, the medals were a byproduct of why he was doing it.
Dude, I love that. And I think for anyone watching, I speak a lot about your superpower and finding your superpower. What Ben is talking about is understanding the fact that his place within the industry is the mindset of the athlete, that performance mentality. And he has leveraged his expertise into providing a service that aligns with his superpower, which is why he's able to show up for his clients the way they show up. And that's why he's able to allow them to be in a position to set goals that are bigger than they ever thought possible and actually check those boxes. So, dude, I appreciate you joining me for a few minutes.
Thank you.
This was awesome. If I'm having you on, like it's a fucking real podcast.
That was good.
We'll catch you guys for the next one.